Okay, let me see if I have pictures of it. I'll show you. It turned out so beautiful. I pulled it out of the oven and I almost started crying. I was like, wow.
I hear that.
Oh, man. I was like, guys, look, they did. Okay, look at this.
Whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
Isn't it beautiful? I'm so proud of it. It looked good. It tasted good. I've never made bread before, so I was pretty impressed that it worked.
Yeah.
I see something in the future, Ashley, breads and pastries.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Only in the fall, though. That's the only time I bake. Yes, I would make bread for the coffee shop.
What do you do? Just make little balls and put it on top?
No, I had to you have to take the ball and you cut it into strips and roll them out. And then you have to do a cross, like a pound symbol kind of thing. And then you just cross them around and then fold them up and then bake it like that. So it looks like, okay, maybe I didn't take a picture of it at the beginning. Yeah, I did. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this.
Okay.
But that's what it looked like before. Yeah, it's braided and traditionally it's made long, but during Rosh Hashanah they make it in a circle. And so you have to go this way and then go the other way. And it was so cool. I'm so proud of it. I've been telling everybody today.
Well,
Look what I made.
Because we're walking through Sam's Club and she's like, I see her and she's looking over at this Christmas tree and I just grab her head and I'm just like, no.
Not yet.
At least another week.
Oh, no. Fall is going to stay as long as possible.
It's 4th of July and then Christmas.
What? He's so greedy. You can have all January and February. Valentine's Day means nothing.
Those months are dead to me.
They're dead to everybody. No one likes those months. New Year's is the lamest holiday. Let's be real. It's cold and dark and nothing exciting is happening.
I feel like they should leave your Christmas lights up
Oh,
on your
yeah.
front porch all year round.
Yes, until the snow
Okay.
is gone.
I know people who do that.
Yeah.
It should be left up, yeah, at least until
At
least until
March?
late March, yeah.
And then keep them on so
I
we
mean,
at
we
least have
do.
something to look at. We do, yeah. Stop making us
Great
look
to
bad.
say.
I look out and I'm like, why have all they gone up and taken all their stuff down? Like, no, that's dangerous. Leave it up.
The ground was frozen and we had that Grinch thing in the yard. But I was so embarrassed because everyone else had taken all the decorations out. And one day I came home from work and I just yanked it out of the ground and put it on the porch. And Zach was like, well, I was going to do that once the ground wasn't frozen. And I was like, that's April. Oh gosh. It'd be one thing, just lights that aren't on, white lights. But it was a Grinch in the yard.
The Grinch was stealing our lights.
I have a cousin that has a Christmas tree. She leaves up all year round, but she decorates it for all the holidays.
See,
That's what I think we should have done this year.
We didn't even undecorate it.
That's true. We just
what time of the year did I end up
Was
carrying
it,
it down to
March?
the basement? Yeah. We were busy.
It was
People were coming over to our house.
Yeah,
We were having
the
Bible
The
study.
group Bible study is January was still up, February was still up. The day before the Bible study on Wednesday, we were or in March, we were we gotta take this downstairs. It's the day before the day of. Jen would have cared. She'd be like, are you serious?
I think Jen was gonna take it down for us if we didn't take it down.
Oh gosh.
Just put
So
some Christmas
funny.
presents under it.
I
That's a good
agree.
idea.
That is a good idea.
I could get myself gifts for
Decorate
you.
Jen's apple trees.
Should. That'd be so funny. Oh,
Take the
goodness.
apples down and put glass balls up for Christmas.
No, paint them red.
Or paint the apples all different colors.
But you can't eat the
What
paint.
was I doing? There's something I
You
needed
have
to
edible.
look at.
I ate paint when I was little.
You still are a little.
Is that what happened?
Why?
Is that why you're not growing?
No.
It's okay, Izzy. We all made mistakes when we were little.
I was perfect.
You're a liar. A lie straight from the pit of hell.
You've already told us you weren't, so don't go there.
Are these all the people who coming?
Yeah, we have sisters, yeah. We've spoken to it.
Well, it's almost time.
Are you live?
Yeah.
She's
You show 'em your bread.
You guys want to see my bread? Okay, let me show you this bread that I made today.
I like how she goes
Uh,
from like she's single. I also know how to bake.
Shana Tova. Okay, so it's Rosh Hashanah right now. I made this challah. It's bread. Look how good it looks. Yum.
Nobody wants to look at a picture
Eh,
of bread.
Are you kidding me? This is the best bread I've ever had in my whole entire life. Okay, and I made it. Oh Lord.
Single and ready to mingle.
Yeah, there's only one person. It's probably Jen.
Did you put your switches on
Yeah.
backwards?
Drop a
No,
comment. who
it's
the one
like this
person
all the
on
way
right now
around.
is.
They're one person.
Isn't that crazy?
Now I feel better.
It's got like a tube, and look, I can tighten it.
That's good too.
Okay.
Now I feel better.
Well,
You just have to put it
after all of that awkwardness,
Awkwardness. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. Am I right? Uh-oh.
I'm just gonna go lay down on the couch.
Oh, goodness.
Well, let's pray and get our mind where it needs to be. And and we will get started with our Bible study. We do have a lot of prayer requests, and I don't know them all. I know Tammy was requesting prayer. Our neighbors requested prayer so that she would get a new job. So definitely want to pray for those. Pray for Jennifer, Betty. Who else needs prayer?
Oops.
There was a couple more. I can't remember them all. But God knows them. So let's go to God in prayer. He can answer all our needs. God, I pray you would touch these requests. God, I pray that you would touch all those in need. God, these requests. God, I pray that you would touch them. God, I pray that you touch Jennifer. God, that you touch Tammy. God, the whole early family. God, I pray that you would move in their lives, strengthen them, touch them. God, I pray that you would move in our lives tonight. God, touch our Bible study. God, I pray that you would lead us and guide us in everything that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. Cassandra said, my friend, Corey Wagner, needs a lot of prayers. Just found out she has cancer. Well, let's just go ahead and pray for Corey then. God, I pray that you would touch Corey, God. We know that you're a healing God, and I just pray that you would touch her, God, that you would move in her life right now, God, that you would touch, and you would also touch Betty, God, that you would strengthen her. God, I pray that you would move in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, we are going to get started with the Bible study. And last night was a really long night for me. I think you can kind of see the bags in my eyes. I don't know. So last night this morning at 5:00 in the morning, I sent a message to my family. I was like, can one of you please teach Bible study? So I left it. I left it on one of them.
And she was awake.
So she happened to say I can this morning. So I was like, okay. So I'm appreciative of that. Whoever would have done it. Because I was wore out and just like, ugh, it was a rough night last night. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Rochelle, and she's gonna teach.
All right, so tonight we are in our Boundaries book in chapter 12. It's Boundaries and the Digital Age. Did anyone read this chapter? You did? It was so long. So I listened to, if you don't have the app called Hoopla, it's a free app and you just enter your library card and you can check out like audiobooks and they read them to you. So I listened to this chapter and it was an hour long. So it was definitely long. Yeah. But that's an awesome app if you drive a lot or don't like to read. But so our focal verse tonight is 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 12. Let's wait a second. Hello, everybody online. If you're just joining us, drop a comment below so we know who's here. We're going to be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 12. And it says, "Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything." So this chapter is talking about not letting technology master you or take over you or be in control in your life. So if you read the first part of the chapter, the author is telling a story about how when he was a kid, he was golfing for his school or whatever, and there was always this doctor out there, and he was like, "How do you get to golf all day? Like, shouldn't you be at work?" And the doctor had a pager, and he's like, "Well, we're actually really close to the hospital, and they just page me when they need me." So it goes on to talk about how like technology, like at the time, an on-call life had limits, and being on call was mostly reserved for people who had to deal with urgent or emergency situations. So not everyone had a pager at the time. And then it continues on to talk about how there were boundaries. Like if you didn't have the pager, like they didn't call you, like they couldn't get a hold of you. So then it continues on. So next came the cell phone, and it talks about how you had to pay for a minute, like per minute. Did anyone have to remember paying like per minute on your cell phone? You still do? What?
You do?
What? Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, well, no one calls me. And then,
Russell, I send him text messages because I know he doesn't read them, and so sometimes I know he has a lot of minutes, so I text him. He doesn't answer my calls.
well, it continues on that people were very like frugal when they would call or text you because it would cost money, so you only sent it in emergency situations. And then came the internet and email, readily available to everyone who had a desktop computer. And then even emails from friends made you feel like you had to respond or do something. There is no escaping anymore. Work officially leaped the boundaries from the brick and mortar workplace and made itself literally at home. So people today can take their laptops home with them. They have access to it. I personally don't put my work email like on my phone. Like I only do work when I'm sitting at the computer, so my work doesn't travel with me. But some people have like their email or their work email on their phone, so you're accessible at all times. So it's just talking about how boundaries have changed over the years and you've become more accessible. And then things got a lot worse. And it says that the cell phone and the internet got married and had a baby. Introducing the smartphone. So the on-call life wasn't limited to when you're at your desk anymore. Now it's in your pocket. And so that's like just something to like
just kind of like a history of how it has changed over the years and how your work life and technology has integrated its way into your life. So even when we think about social media, the number of people that have access to it, like Cindy, you can see your family and talk to them, not see them, but you can talk to them and share pictures on social media instantly. You don't have to mail a letter and wait a week to get the picture in the mail anymore. So everything is instantaneous. It talks about in this book that when Facebook first came out, the Microsoft founder Bill Gates got off of Facebook because he said he had too many friend requests and it was taking too much of his time. So I will admit that social media has taken up a lot of my time. And when I was reading this chapter, I was feeling very cringy. I was like, whoa, just reading my mail. But that pretty much brings us to the present, where there are no more default boundaries around technology to protect you because everything is so accessible now. So before, time and space were the natural and default boundaries. You had to send a letter and wait for it. Now you expect someone to pick up their cell phone or or answer your text message immediately. The same natural boundaries also apply to relationships and activities outside of work. If extended family, friends, or neighbors wanted to communicate with you, they had to ring your doorbell, call you on the phone, or even write you a letter. And you were protected naturally by these boundaries, both time and space, but that is no longer. So, continuing on to the next page on 212, if you have your books with you, if you want to follow along, the next part is tells a little story about date night. And the author says that he was talking to a couple about their marriage and suggested that they should consider having a date night. When he did, the wife just rolled his eyes and says, "That will never work. I'm not going." She seemed a bit closed-minded, so I asked, "Why not?" Immediately she said, "Because he will just be like this the whole time." And then she mimicked him being on his phone, type away, sending text messages and email. That would be a horrible way to spend an evening. Now, you can always be found, which means you're on call 24/7, and anyone at any time, anywhere, and for any reason can get to you. Feeling a bit exposed? You should be, because you are. So the next part is talking about choosing freedom and avoiding destruction. Technology and social media aren't inherently bad. In fact, there are many ways you can enhance your life and relationships. Just like we talked about, we can instantly see family and friends' pictures on social media. We can keep up with them more. We have like a family Marco Polo group. It's like a video chat, and we chat with each other via video. So like all these things can make your life better. But just as it is with so many other areas of your life, it's important to make sure you are controlling your digital life so it doesn't control you. And I thought that was so vital to not let your digital life control you. So if you look if anyone brought their workbook, if you didn't, it's okay. But on page 169, it goes with this section in the book. And it said, listed below are some of the signs that your digital life might be in danger of controlling you. So, if any of these apply, just keep a count in your head. Okay, you ready? So, have you ever lost sleep or stay up later than otherwise would? Be late to work / school, appointments, or other social engagements.
Relate to work?
Never. All right. Suffer physical discomfort like muscle strain, neck, back, headache, eye strain.
But that can be caused from other things other than social media.
No.
My arm and wrist get tired.
Oh, Lord. All right, lose focus or productivity at school or work. Yes.
100%.
All day.
All right, neglect necessary tasks or responsibilities. All right, experience relational complications or tension. Invest more
How are you gonna
time.
put your finger up for that?
Oh, I wasn't counting. I already lost count. Invest more time or emotional energy in online relationships than in-person relationships. Waste time I couldn't afford to waste.
Oh yeah.
Gas. Grammy's probably like, yeah, you should be cleaning the house. instead."
You're right.
All right. Treat every moment as a potential social media post.
I don't do that, but Ashley does. Ashley's bad.
Okay. Be mentally preoccupied with technology even when not using it. So, like thinking about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, either way.
Wow.
So, say things online I wouldn't say in person.
Nah, I'd say the same things in person.
Lie, exaggerate, or otherwise massage the truth. Experience anxiety, stress, or depression. And then they have another option. Does anyone want to share their number that they counted?
I don't know.
9,
I
9,
have
10.
5. Whoa.
All right,
Well,
so
I feel seen.
according to this list, it says listed below are some of the signs that your digital life might be in danger of controlling you. Gasp! All right, so I think we all probably at least selected one. So we might all be in danger. But I just thought that was such a I don't know, like a revealing list. Like felt so exposed.
You know, it's kind of interesting. So, like, one of the things that I talk about in some of like the groups that I'm a part of that do like marketing and things like that. I don't know if you've heard it, stuck in the scroll. Like, and that's just where you're like scrolling social media and you're there for hours. A lot of times, like people just scroll right past ads. Like they have a vibe to them. They just you begin to recognize ads, and so you can scroll right past them. And the only way to get people to stop is if you have something that stops the scroll. And so, in marketing, the idea is like to stop the scroll. And so, you've got to have something that is eye catching, that is kind of ridiculous, or something that doesn't look high production value, doesn't look and so sometimes, like whenever I do like stuff for our church and stuff, I try and use some of those things that I think that I've talked about with other people. I'm like, well, if Tammy's scrolling Facebook and I want her to see this post, what do I need to post? If I post the same thing all the time, people are just going to scroll right past it because I don't want to read it. But if it gets something that catches your eye, so
I always get those music or a video and you'll be scrolling. I was like,
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh man, yeah. The scroll can get you, and then you look at the same thing. It's so bad. All right. Anyways, so we all found out that we might be in danger. So how do we keep the good in and the bad out? So Galatians 5:13 says, "Do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh; rather serve one another humbly in love." So this is the principle: you are free, and your boundaries are meant to protect that freedom. But do not use your freedom to hurt yourself or anyone else. Use your freedom to love. So, Jesus demonstrated observing the Sabbath. So God had given the Sabbath to the ancient Israelites after they were freed from 400 years of slavery in Egypt. The Sabbath put a boundary on how much time God's people spent on work so they could devote one day a week to rest and worship. The Sabbath was a gift intended for the good of the people. So talking about having boundaries, like it's biblical to have boundaries. It's biblical to not indulge in, like in this case, technology, like all the time. Like you need to set time away for rest. You need to set time away to worship and things like that. So when we have those boundaries, that's when we keep the good in and the bad out. The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people and not people meet the requirements of the Sabbath. In other words, like all healthy boundaries, the rule about the Sabbath observance was meant to serve us, to keep us safe, and to enhance our life with God by giving Him first priority. Has anyone ever felt like just wore out and like day-to-day stuff, and like you just can't like get a break? Well, the Bible talks about you are supposed to take rest. So that's a good boundary, is to find a time throughout your week to get rest, refreshed, and find time with God throughout the week.
I was just gonna say, I think that's important. That Sabbath part, it's talking about it's asking you for, God was asking for like the first part. That's always been what He asked for. From the beginning, when He asked for the sacrifice, it was the first tenth. It was all these different things that God asked for. God doesn't want the leftovers, and sometimes I feel like we do that. We give Him the leftovers, and He's obviously worthy of so much more. And without thinking about it, I think we can easily give God the leftovers. We can allow everything else to become central to our lives, where what we give God leftover is just garbage. He likes the good stuff too, you know? And so, I don't know, it's something to think about. Like, don't spend yourself so much that you have nothing left to give to God.
Yeah. A lot of time, our extra time is spent on technology. I know I find myself, like, in my spare time, like, being on my phone and whatever, when I could be, like, spending that energy with God.
Yeah, you're talking about the Sabbath. So while I was in Israel, we had the opportunity to do, like, a Shabbat dinner with the family. And they do on Friday night or Friday evening till Saturday evening, they have Shabbat. And so sundown to sundown, they don't use any technology. And the lady who was hosting us, she was telling us, she was like, it's such a nice, like, relief, because she works in social media. She works on her phone all the time. She was like, but when that day comes, she was like, I know that my phone is off. No one can reach me. And for 24 hours, it's just like me and God.
Is that every week or just
Mm-hmm. Every week they do it. Shabbat's every week. Yeah. They do it every Friday evening till Saturday evening.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. And like while I was there, I was like, maybe I should do this, like Saturday evening till Sunday evening. Just like no technology. Like I don't work on the weekends, not doing school on the weekends, just like setting that time aside to like disconnect, like reconnect with reality. But
So, what are some fears you would have in doing that?
that everything would go to chaos while I'm gone, or that like someone's gonna die and I'm not gonna hear about it, or
That's a very important
like
post.
someone's in the like I post everything, and that's my problem. I put everything online, and like I made bread, had to tell all my social media followers, like, look what I did. Like that's a problem.
I don't see half your posts. I have to go on to your.
Oh, they're all on my story.
Oh,
I don't make like direct posts.
Okay.
Yeah, all my posts are on my story. Just so you know, you can find me there. Oh my gosh, no, that's not the point of this. But I do like have like withdrawals when I have my phone off.
This just became a plug.
Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Ashley Pretty. I'm just kidding. Also, Cooper on campus. No, but I do have I feel like I have withdrawals when I turn my phone off.
Have you ever lost
For
your
sure.
phone?
No,
I have, and that puts me into panic mode.
I don't think my phone isn't out of my hand long enough for me to lose it.
You know, I've done it where like, you put your phone down, you leave it, and like I can stop talking. I can put my phone away, and I probably should. Like now that you're talking about it, like I probably should just have a day that I turn off my phone. But I guess like you asked the question, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of like someone's gonna try and get a hold of me, and if it's important, I want them to be able to reach me, and like everything's connected to that, you know. And that Saturday night into Sunday evening sounds kind of nice. Like just turn it off for a while, but it's kind of hard because like sometimes I'm just like, well, what if someone needs something? What if something goes wrong? And it's not it's not really like social media. Like it's not that. I do that because I enjoy it. You know, the things I do with social media is because I enjoy it, not necessarily because, well, sometimes it's probably got a little bit of an addiction to it, but mostly it's because I enjoy like looking at the numbers and things like that.
So I was asking about the fear part because we've created a culture where we're accessible 24/7. We're on call 24/7. And when you brought up Israel, and they have a culture where from this time to this time they're not accessible, and everyone knows it. Like that's they've created that culture. They've created that norm. And so it's just so interesting about like you can create the culture in your home. You can create the culture in your like our country. Like it's just interesting to, you know, find out the whys behind stuff, I guess. Like why you do things. So the next part says find the misery and make a rule. So if there's an area in your life like that you're suffering, make a personal rule and keep it from hurting you. So if you get a stomach ache and break out in a rash every time you eat a certain food, then you'll make a rule that you will stay away from it. So the same thing applies to setting boundaries on technology and social media. If it's intruding on your life and relationships, make a rule to protect yourself. So it talks about like how you can become miserable by basically being on call 24/7. People contacting you, emails coming in. So setting those rules and those boundaries. I keep saying phone because I feel like everyone has that. It's accessible to everyone. But the principle is that when something is causing you or others some kind of pain, find the misery and make a rule. Preserve the good stuff and prevent the bad stuff. So this is what boundaries are all about. Here are just a few examples. So it talks about routinely turning the phone off, just like we kind of talked about already. For example, when you're having family dinner, when you're having date night or a social gathering, or if you're having, like, if you find yourself looking at your phone when you're in a conversation with someone, like, then you like set a boundary, you have to turn it off if you know that's a problem for you. Email and social media turned off during important work periods. If you find yourself looking at your phone when you should be working, just turn it off. A social media engagement is limited to certain time blocks. For example, 15 minutes, like once or twice a day. So allowing yourself a certain, like set a timer, like I have this amount of time to look at social media or whatever. No technology is used 30 minutes before going to bed at night and 30 minutes after getting up in the morning. I feel like that's a hard one. I feel like a lot
Gotta
of
check to see what's happened overnight.
First thing I do in the morning. I have a real problem.
This like read my mail. So I kind of go to bed and it lays right next to me too, you know, and I wake up, like look at the time, look
It's
at the
my
morning.
alarm. Yeah.
It's my alarm. Like we're so attached to it. So you may find that personal rules such as these not only prevent a lot of misery, but they also allow you to get more done, more productive. It would probably keep a cleaner house if I had these rules in place. Does anyone currently have rules that they set for themselves for their technology?
When I go out to eat with someone, I don't touch my phone unless they're touching theirs. That is one that I do. And so like when I have dinner with someone, I'll put my phone down, and I normally leave it sitting on the table with my phone facing down, or I'll put it like underneath my leg, and I just like watch the people around the table, and if everyone else goes to their phone, then I'll go to my phone. Like there's certain times when I do like have to like get on my phone and like check something, because I do like have my work emails and stuff on there, and sometimes they email me, and it's kind of time sensitive, so I respond. But for the most part, I can take an hour and sit down and eat with someone, and they're the only people that matter, But if they'll sit there and play on their phone, fine, I'm just gonna play on mine too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna tell someone to stop playing on their phone. So it's not my spot. So if we go out to eat, I'm not gonna play with my phone.
Do you ever find yourself like in a lull in a conversation and you just gradually pick up your phone and like not even recognizing you're doing it?
It's like ums. It's become when I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
It's like a
I'll click
safety
scroll.
blanket.
Yeah.
Like when you're feeling uncomfortable or nervous, it's like having a friend there that you could look at, so you don't have to deal with the awkwardness
What's my
of the
other friend
situation.
doing?
That's the friend that I wish I was with right now.
I don't like how uncomfortable this conversation is getting.
Oh, it's a good one. This is a fun one. So the next part is talking about, are you addicted? Would anyone care to raise their hand and admit they're addicted to their phone?
I feel like that was
Addicted to your-
established in the 9 fingers I had up earlier.
All right, is anyone online addicted to your phone?
Yeah, put your hand to raise emoji.
Yeah, raise your hand.
And it's okay that you're online right now if you're on your phone watching this. That's not
Everyone
considered
drops
addiction.
off the live
Yeah,
stream.
it's not considered an addiction.
So we are familiar with substance addiction. So whatever the particular substance or activity might be, the main principle is this: using the substance or engaging in the activity gives the reward centers in the brain a jolt or reduces anxiety for a moment, thus reinforcing the use of the substance or behavior. And I was reading that and I was like, whoa, like sometimes I look at my phone just to like take a break from life. Like it's like blocks everything, the world around me. Like I don't have to think about anything. I just whatever in front of me. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have an addiction.
I watch stupid videos. That's my addiction.
So, the same description applies to technology. So people who overuse technology display many of the same qualities associated with alcohol and drug addiction. A person receives a psychological jolt or reward or anxiety reduction for repeatedly checking social media, email, texts, or whatever. And when the sensation or relief has passed, the person has a need for another hit, and the addictive cycle begins. So you set your phone down, a little bit later you pick it up to get another hit, I guess. So what we're talking about here is losing self-control. If you are no longer in control of your device, and your device is now your master. The Apostle Paul warns us about when he says, I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. That was the first verse that we talked about, not letting technology be the master of us. If you are incapable of not using it, you have been mastered. So I was thinking today, we'd like to take a trip up to the Boundary Waters because the specific reason that there's no self-service, and it forces us to not use technology, and it's such a like relief and refreshing time. But like we were talking about earlier, it's so hard to like just turn it off because people don't know you're like turned it off. Like if you tell them you're going to the Boundary Waters and you're not going to have service, they're probably not going to message you. Well, hopefully, maybe. At least you're not going to know about it.
We would come out of the Boundary Waters, and like there's a certain place in the road, and your phone just starts ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, and I would just turn my phone off for like 2 hours while I got all these notifications, and it was so. It just my anxiety. Like I came out of the Boundary Waters just like so refreshed and just like I finally felt like, and then all of a sudden it was just like the shackle was back on, and I was like, and the thing was is it. And people that knew I was gone was messaging me, and this was years ago. But you know, it's just like I'm like now I'm like afraid because I'm in a different position in life now, and I'm like, well, if I turn off my phone now, you know, is it bad if someone can't get a hold of me for 12 hours or 14 hours? You know, is that a bad thing? Maybe we need a pager for the church.
There you go.
Emergency use only.
Beep, beep, beep. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be going beep, beep, beep.
I feel like there are very few things though. Like I feel
That are
like
true
the
emergency.
church has this church specifically has a really good system in place. I feel like as far as like how many times have you been called like in the middle of the night because somebody needed prayer here?
Never.
Because there's like typically like at least the people in this group,
There's a lot of
like,
people
know
awake
how to-
at that time.
yeah, and they either know how to pray for themselves or they have like a community of people that they can reach out to. They don't feel like they need to reach out to you. There's like 10 other people that they'll reach out to before bothering you.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the purpose of like the whole EFAM thing is like there's people on there that can reach out for prayer, and then it kind of help grow that in the sense of like, hey, there's a community where you can get, and it feels a sense of safety, where you can talk to it because it's a small, close-knit group of people, and that I don't know, for the most part, seem to care for each other, and I think that matters, and yeah, I probably shouldn't be so worried. I could probably turn my phone off for 12 hours.
Maybe we should do that this week, guys.
Maybe we should try
Let's
it.
just see what happens. If you guys don't hear from us Saturday night, Sunday, after you'll see us at
We'll
church.
see.
But we have to make our posts.
Oh yeah, we have to let everybody know we're social media fasting, or else it doesn't count.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, from the game on Sunday.
You don't tell everybody that it doesn't work. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna be fasting social media for the next 12 hours.
Cool. I'll tell you what, I'll post a lot of things on social media. That's not one of them. Okay. Oh,
You'll have
Lord.
the cops knock at your door because you forget to tell someone you shut your earphones off.
And they're coming to do a welfare check on me. We know that he's had issues before. Like, we just want to know he's okay.
So when we went to the Boundary Waters, how long would you say it took you to like stop glancing at your phone? Like phantom vibrations?
It was like 24 hours.
Like before you could really relax?
I think, well, I don't know. It's pretty quick because like your phone just goes silent. It's like once it loses, like the only thing I used my phone for was pictures and GPS. Like that was it. That's the only thing it's good for up there.
Yeah.
And it's not even that good for it. Out in the middle, I'm like, well, I'm in Canada. Not supposed to be here.
Don't know how I got
I
here.
told you a story about when I went missing.
You went missing.
Yeah.
That's a story we need to hear.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hear that another time. So sometimes when you start setting boundaries, you have a hard time. Like, how would you say that? Like, detoxing almost.
It is.
So, anyway, so the next section talks about boundaries with teens. I see Jason's probably the only one with the child in the room that's close to teenage age, but I think these can be applicable to any age. So it's just talking about how Should you set very strict boundaries around digital use, or should you grant more freedom? Does anyone have an opinion on that?
Depends on the age.
Okay, age.
Wait, repeat the question.
Maturity.
Should you set very strict boundaries around digital use, or should you grant more freedom?
As someone who was raised through this, like having a phone, like I remember being a child, my mom, we had internet. She didn't we were just then seeing the full effects of the internet and like having access to it all the time. And so she didn't know how to like parent through that. So I spent a lot of time on the computer. She wasn't home, she was at work. And so I spent a lot of time on the internet. As someone who grew up through that, my kids are not going to have smartphones.
No.
Absolutely not. There's so much trash on the internet that's so easily accessible.
Yep.
Like maybe when they're like 17, maybe, like get them used to that. But like, and like we're seeing a new generation of kids, like iPad kids, that like they're like 2-3 years old. They can barely talk, and they're like proficient on technological devices. And I'm like, what is that doing to their eyes? Like
And
there's
their brain
and like what are they accessing? Like how many parental controls are there really on that? And they can probably figure their way around them.
Well,
like-
teen kids can.
Oh, it's
sure.
it's so dangerous.
Well, there's certainly a lot of opinions on it. I mean, as you can see, parents have, little kids with cell phones, and then you see teenagers without cell phones. So there's definitely a variety of opinions. Do you have opinions working in the school?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to give it?
They want
No, I think that like kids have to learn, like, because we've talked about it like throughout the beginning, this whole book, like kids have to learn to be able to say no. If they don't learn to say no now, they're going to be easier pressured into something. And I think the average age that kids see like hardcore pornography is like age 9, somewhere in there. And that's crazy when you think about that. Like the age 9 is the average age that kids are seeing that. That means there's kids younger, kids older seeing it. And I look at the kids at school and I hear kids talk about it, and it's commonplace and it's easy to access. It's free to access. It's not like before when you made that decision, you had to walk into a store specifically geared to that and buy that. It's anyone can access it so easily. And so I think like as a parent, teaching your kid biblical values, giving your kid some amount of freedom, but also like protecting your kid, putting the boundaries around your kid. There's a lot of things out there. Like I have one on my phone called Accountable to You. And there's another one like Covenant Eyes, and basically anything that you shouldn't look at that you have set up, it goes to my accountability partner. And it protects me. Like, so even as an adult, like I remember I was young whenever I found it, and I was at the early ages of the internet. And so I think that, kids, teaching them the biblical values, but also giving them and letting them learn how to say no and develop those resistance to temptation is really important. And also when they make that mistake, showing grace and teaching them how to overcome when they do fail, because they are going to. Every kid's going to fail. And I feel like a lot of times, just from my experience, parents just tend to get upset rather than teach, they correct. And without teaching, a lot of times correction just appears that you're angry at them, and they don't know really what they did or how to correct it.
That's a really great answer. Basically everything the book says right here. So it goes on to say,
It means I'm smart. I can read.
Did you read the book? And
No.
So I was talking about you should. So every kid is different. So there's going to be many different opinions. So there's no really right answer or wrong answer as to when you allow your kid to have technology. The right answer is knowing your kid, knowing who their friends are, knowing what they're looking at. Like having and building that relationship where they feel comfortable talking with you. They feel that like they can ask you questions without having repercussions of it. They can be taught before they get in trouble. So many things like we were talking the other day about siblings and stuff, and we were talking about I don't even remember how that went, but it was like, well, so and so's never cleaned the bathroom before, and we were like, did anyone teach them? I don't know. Like no one knew. So it's really important that you teach before you get upset, because otherwise, how will they know? And then if you show them the right way, then they know. So
Can I throw this in there?
Yeah.
So I used to play the devil's advocate at work. I mean, he doesn't need an advocate, but I like to play him anyways. And so I would be at work and people would begin to complain. I worked with all women. And so it tendencies would, complain about husbands. And I generally would sit there and listen. And sometimes I would just like, have you ever told your husband that you don't like the way that he does the dishes or the way that he's helped you or the way that he's done this or this or this? And they'll be like, no. Well, then how is he ever going to change? Yeah, like I tell my wife, I'm like, look, if I do something you don't like, you have to tell me. Like, tell me why you don't like it. Otherwise, I just think you're mad at me. And I don't know. Like, I would just throw this out there sometimes, just randomly. Have you ever showed him how you want it done? No. Stop complaining about it then. Sounds like it's your fault. That's probably how his mom did it, is what I would say. And but I think it's sometimes we expect people to do things the way we want them to do it, and they don't know how to do it. And so the only way that they can learn is if you really do just teach and show them. And that goes for children all the way up to our husbands and wives.
teach before you get mad. Jennifer Early says online, with age comes privileges, but with privileges comes responsibility that is expected to be upheld. Once the trust is broken, then strict rules come in.
Yeah, she's also complaining about my shirt because it has the lobsters on it. I just keep saying it's because it means I'm not crabby.
All right, so trust is really important with teenagers. Like they want to feel like they're an adult, they want to be trusted, they respond well to it, but they also need to be able to prove themselves worthy of it. So the best approach for developing this kind of trust with teens is the same one you've already read about in the book, which is the law of sowing and reaping in love. So here's how, and he goes into this story with the author goes into a story about how he worked with his daughters, and he had them go do research on technology and like give a report to him and give a presentation to him, and they did all the research, and then they had to come up with a plan of what they thought would be like good rules or boundaries for technology. So they told him what they thought would be good time frames, things like that. And after that gives them the power to do the research, to look into it, like why should I have boundaries, so they understand. So I thought that was really good, like giving them the power to learn about it.
That's kind of interesting. Like, so I had a student today. They recently had an 18th birthday, and first thing they came in there, I'm an adult. And I'm like, well, that's cool. That means you can sign off on your paperwork now. I don't have to go find your parents to sign off on it. Yay. And, a lot of times, like, as soon as I remember when I was 16, 17, I was like, I can't wait to hit 18. I'm an adult. But like, how many of you were really adults at 18? Like, yeah, you see everyone keep your hands down. Like, yeah, the government said we were adults, but really it's not. And it's just this idea that, oh, you're an adult at 18. And so I felt like there was like this opportunity where like I had this like teachable moment. And I was like, well, do you have this information about your insurance? He was like, yeah, actually I do. I have my card. And I was like, oh, well, that's great. I didn't even expect that. And so I wrote down on a piece of paper, give me these numbers off of it for this paperwork I need you to fill out. And he's like, well, I don't know what those numbers are. I said, but you told me you were an adult. And he goes, but I don't know. I was like, exactly. I was like, you're an adult legally, but there's still a lot that you need to learn. And be willing to let people teach you. Like, it was a teachable moment. At that moment, I could have crushed him and been like, no, you're not an adult. But I still let him be an adult. But I also tried to teach him in the moment, hey, here's something you can learn while you're an adult. Everyone had to learn what their group ID number was and what their member number was and their insurance company name was. Everyone had to learn those things. And so I had to.
I didn't learn those things until I started working at the office this year. I didn't know any of those things.
And that's what I'm saying. Like those are
24.
Those were adult things. There's a lot of things there that the kids don't learn in high school, and they come out and they're like, well, I'm an adult. I can go be who I am. I'm an adult. And it's like, well, yeah, technically you can to a certain point, but also remember, let other people teach you from their mistakes. And as they left the room, I was like, well, hey, you're an adult. And he was like, almost. I was like, yeah, adult in training. How about that?
There you go. That was good.
So on page 222, the book gives some different, suggestions that you can kind of use while you're working with your teens. And it talks about setting guidelines and informing them. So being honest with them about like cyberbullying, being informative about like not giving out your personal information on like chat rooms or through their gaming systems or like things like that, like being safe, having conversations about the content that's appropriate to look at. Also knowing the passwords for your teens' email and social media accounts. And then check the websites they visit. There's like on your phones and on computers, there's like a browsing history. You can look at your teenagers' stuff. Look for trouble on their social media sites. Is someone bullying them? Talk about it, things like that. And there's, you mentioned it earlier, but there's also internet monitoring applications, Accountable to You, Covenant Eyes. There's also some that like set limits on how much internet time they can have. There's also things where it will track the location where their phone is. So you can, we have it on ours. It's like on Google Maps, so I can see where he is or where I am on the map. But it'll send messages. Some apps will send messages to the parents, like they're out of range or like out of a normal area.
Yeah, you can set borders
Yeah.
for your kids. So there is some really useful tools for kids, and having a cell phone for the parents, you can monitor things really closely. If you want to hover a lot, depending on how much you want to hover, 6 inches or 16 feet. There's a lot of things that you can do. Our stuff, her seeing where I'm at and me seeing where she's at, is mostly just because I get, and I like to know. This sounds so like I don't trust her whenever we say it, but it really is. It just like comes down to like if she goes to Walmart, sometimes I like to check and see where she's at. Gosh, that still sounds bad.
Does it tell you what aisle she's in?
It doesn't.
It only sounds bad because you guys are married.
Yeah.
I've got friends that have my location. And like my sister in New Mexico has my location, and it's mostly a safety precaution.
Yes.
Because I will go out and like explore and like go places by myself, and if I go missing, someone needs to know where I am.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she actually like would check it when I was really depressed and kind of had a lot of suicidal ideation. She would check my location to see where I was, and if I wasn't home, she would be concerned. Sometimes she'd message me and be like, "Hey, where are you?" So there is a reason. I mean, and I like her knowing where I'm at, and like it's not that I'm trying to hide anything or anything. I want her to know, and I mostly want to see where she's at because I'm like, can you hurry up? Like I'm trying to get this. Like I'm waiting for the stuff to get here. Come on. And I'm looking and I'm impatient, and it delays like a few seconds of where she's at. So timing is everything.
Yeah, so it's good for adults too. Even like in bad weather, like sometimes I'll like if he doesn't reply, I'll be like, oh, did he actually make it to school in this blizzard, or So, anyways, this chapter this chapter is so long, so I'm gonna kind of jump to the next section. The next section is talking about FOMO. Who knows what that means?
FOMO?
Not you two.
okay.
Oh,
Anybody else in the room know what like FOMO means?
FOMO.
It's
an
fear
acronym.
of missing out. It's missing out on some things so you don't miss out on the best. So, it refers to the anxiety people feel when they fear something important may be going on.
And some of y'all got FOMO and you don't even know what it is.
Like,
Oh, I can't be gone. I gotta get church this Sunday. Something might happen.
That's fair.
I mean, I agree.
that's FOMO. That's a good FOMO.
That is.
You fear missing out on something good. So, anyways, it's talking about with technology. So, do you ever check your Facebook, email, and text every few minutes just to stay in touch?
I just like to see if I have new likes.
Yeah,
So that could be a fear of missing out on something. So the author goes on to say that he found out that he had some FOMO when he was out to dinner with his wife, and he went to the restroom and he took his cell phone, and he came back and his wife was like, I feel like you were checking your email in the bathroom. And he was like, I looked down at my hand and saw my smartphone clutched in it and said, oh my gosh, you're right. I've got FOMO. I realized that I had been anxious about missing out on regular non-emergency emails and texts while I was out to dinner. The simple fix was to leave my smartphone on the dinner table while I was gone. So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know how bad FOMO has, like this fear of missing out thing has got, is that we used to like you'd order something and a week later it would show up at your door. Packages and everything the speed has just changed everything. 3-day shipping. Everybody's got to have the fastest shipping. You can literally track your UPS driver now. Like, I think you can even do it here in Detroit Lakes, but in Moorhead, I could track where my UPS driver was when he was out with my package. I could go on and I could look and see where he was. You can do that with Dom. Yeah, like it's absolutely insane. Like people are so like I need my package now. Like we're so instant gratification.
So these are things, this is another list. So keep tracking your head. The first thing you do at every break between events is check your smartphone instead of talking to someone, stretching, walking, or thinking.
Depends, but yeah, mostly.
You experience anxiety and wonder, what am I missing when you aren't able to check your phone during a break? You experience anxiety when you're not waiting for an important person, or you experience anxiety even when you're not waiting for an important response from someone you expect to contact you immediately. You feel edgy because you can't check your phone when a meeting is going too long.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm. When my phone's buzzing and I'm like, oh, man.
You default to engaging the digital world instead of the one around you. Others express concern about your digital engagement or comment that they think you are somewhat out of balance with the amount of time you devote to it. At the end of your day, it's hard to reflect on the events of the day because nothing much happened in your relational world or your tasks world except that you kept up with your friends, the news, and your hobbies in your digital device. So if any of these applied, you know you may have FOMO if any of the following occur. So I thought that was fun.
I don't like this anymore.
I don't like this one.
This is very uncomfortable.
So we're gonna just talk about some guidelines to help if you struggle with any of these. So engage with people who you're with. Set your phone down, turn it off. Focus on creating a life of freedom. Remember that successful people are self-directed people. Think about the people you most respect and admire. Observe regular non-digital time periods. So if you have a time period where you read books or you turn your phone off or you cook or go for a bike ride, whatever that may be, think through the why of your FOMO. So why am I afraid of not checking my phone every few minutes? Because I might miss something or someone wants to tell me. Why is that a big deal? Because it might be important. So think over the last 7 days, what percentage of the digital communication you received were important enough to check for every few minutes? It's probably about 1%. So does checking all the time make sense? No, it makes no sense, and it isn't helping me. Train the people in your life not to expect an instant response. That's a hard one. So sometimes you'll train the people in your life that I will respond to you no matter what at the exact time you message me, and if I don't, then that person's going to get mad at me or whatever the case may be. So train the people that you might not get an exact response right away, especially if it's not like immediate family members or things like that, you know. So
That's a really hard one because, like, in like business school, they're like, you need to be accessible. Like, the faster the response, the better. I've been told that so many times, and now my response time is really, really short.
Well, I think it
I
depends.
didn't know that was a problem.
depends on, like, are there non-emergency type of things? Like, is it controlling your life?
So, like, if you message our Facebook page, you're gonna get an instant response from a robot. And then you can have a conversation with that robot, and then it eventually, like, it's to take up time, so then we can get to it. But like generally, we answer pretty much any time, and it's just because whether you're on the website or whether you're on Facebook, is because like sometimes it's important stuff, and there have been several times that the quick response was beneficial to the person. But probably 1% of the time has it been beneficial. Like, has it been actually something that was important? And so I think I have to agree. Like, a lot of times we just train people, and I know last week I talked about it. Sometimes when someone's coming, like, do they value you, or do they just want you? Kind of situation. And I think if you just, like, instead of answering instantly all the time, and instead of always responding right away, just give it time. Respond later. Respond when it's convenient, when it's appropriate. Whatever. You don't have to feel rushed. Obviously it's best to do it within 24 hours. That's why the church, like, if voicemail, I think it depending on the emergency, it's like says, like, hang up and dial 911, or here's the crisis number. So I guess the truth is there's not someone on call 24 hours a day at the church, and
I think,
you can't live your life that way.
With all of this is having balance. Like, it would be weird if Zach texted me and I saw it and I was like, well, I need to let this sit for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Like, that would be weird. But if there's someone that sucks your time, like, sucks the life out of you, like, like, don't give them, like, the impression that you're available all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so having balance and having just wisdom in technology is, I mean, that's what it is. That's what it's all about, setting boundaries, you know, and setting those healthy boundaries. So it's not like, you know, pushing out your close friends and family. It's setting boundaries for things that are not good in your life.
I think that's been one of the hardest things, but most rewarding things for me to learn is not always answering the phone, letting them leave a message. And if they leave a message, then I'll return their call. If they don't leave a message, it wasn't that important.
That's all I ever do. I never answer the phone.
Yeah.
If you call me, I will not answer. Leave a message or I'm not coming
She doesn't
calling
answer
back
my
to you.
calls.
I don't answer any calls.
It's
Yeah.
weird because you called me twice yesterday.
Yeah, well, like if I want an immediate response, I will call you. Only like them though.
Like, oh my gosh,
or like
she's
my
dying,
immediate
she's
family. I'll be
calling.
like, I need to know something right now. Answer this.
You know, and then like sometimes someone will be like, "Hey, can I call you?" If I can't take a call right then, I will give them the time to call me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I think that's important. Be like, well, I can't do that. And I've had, even with my clients, sometimes like in the summer, they were like, well, can we meet? I can't meet today. I can't meet right now. This is my day off. But here's what I will do. We can do a phone call at this time. Does that work for you? And if they turn that down, what were they really wanting? And so sometimes you can get yourself into a mess by instantly always responding and being and allowing yourself to feel that you always have to just instant response.
So I just wanted to wrap up the Bible story, just one last response. I think we had like really great conversations tonight. I hope that you guys all learned a little bit about yourself. With the right boundaries and rules in place, you can have the time you need to connect with the people with whom you want to connect and to accomplish the tasks you need to complete. It won't take an overhaul of your time and effort, and the results will be more than worth it. Did anyone want to add any thoughts? Any other thoughts to this study?
I since we're wrapping up, I was gonna say, sometimes I'm busy, I'm doing something on my phone or whatever, but when someone comes and tries to talk to me like in person, I try and let the person who is in front of me, there present, be the one who takes priority, because they can see my facial responses, they can see that, and if I'm responding to this person, I may say to that person, because if this is going to take up my mental strain while I'm in that conversation, I am better to say, give me 1 second, let me finish this text message, and then put my phone away, and then engage the person, so that, because the last thing I want someone to feel is that I don't care or that I don't value what they're saying. And sometimes even you're trying to complete two actions, and what you're communicating to the person who can see your face is that they don't matter. You may hear everything that they do and you may be able to respond perfectly, and sometimes that's the case. But the reality is that only works in social media and in text messaging, when they can't see your facial responses, they can't see that you're doing something else. And I would say that if you ever struggle with that, like if you ever are talking to someone comes up to you, tell them, give me 1 second, finish what you're doing, put it down, and engage with the person that's there in front of you. Because the person here may matter, but the person in front of you can see you, and they know exactly what you're thinking. If you don't give them that, they feel like they're just talking to a wall. And you want a person that gets done talking to you to feel like you gave them something. You know, it's like sometimes people will talk to me and they have their phone out, and I don't know if they're understanding what we're talking about, and I don't know if they're comprehending. I don't know if they're caught up in another conversation somewhere, what they're doing. And so I kind of just stop talking and just let the silence fill, because if this is important, I'm not. And so sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, just keep talking. I'm listening." Yeah, that's not what I'm here for. It's not. That's not what I do. And so I think it's so important that anyone that's there in your presence doing something, you're giving them the time. How would you want Jesus to respond to your need? Kind of thing. And don't let this rule your life. And I think everyone at some point in time struggles with overuse of their, I say, phones, computer, game system, Netflix, whatever. All of those things can become something that we binge watch too much, that we do this too much, and God gets the leftovers. And I'm guilty of it too, but I think it's so important that when you recognize it, that's God shining the light and saying, okay, it's time to make a change. What is that change? You've got to weigh that, and you've got to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is the step I'm going to take. But I don't know, that was pretty good. Anyone else want to add anything or say anything? Comment?
I think this was the most impactful lesson that I've been in this far. Like the other ones were kind of like, don't let people run your life. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, don't let your phone run your life. And I'm like,
It was?
okay. Good. Ooh.
It's all about healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling cringed. Well, should we go ahead and end in prayer?
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up. Well, God, I pray that you would touch us tonight. God, I pray that you would move in our lives, strengthen us. Thank you for tonight, God. I pray that you would touch all those requests, God, all those that were here, all those that were online with us. God, I pray that you would move in their lives, strengthen them. God, we thank you for meeting us here tonight. Thank you for giving us your word, God, and I pray that you would strengthen each of us. God, help us to set those boundaries and to make you the central focus of our life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Bye, guys.
I'll hit the end stream button.